Travel is something that has been around since the beginning of civilization. People began to travel first by foot before they knew about things like ships and cars and airplanes. After foot, many people began to ride horses, donkeys, and mules. These were the best way to get around at the time and the cheapest and easiest way to do it. In Europe, before carriage travel, many high-ranking officials used human power to move them. They would set in chairs that would be set on top of the carrier's shoulders to move them from place to place. The next form of travel came in stagecoaches. They were introduced to Europe in about 1640. They were only used by high-ranking officials at first, but soon to allow lower-income citizens to ride on the top. These were a very, very rough way to travel, and many people lost their lives on these. Ships are something that date back all the way to around the beginning of civilization. Now they were a little different then. They were more wooden planks that floated. Ship travel really didn't become prevalent until the Mediterranean in the Middle Age years when they were using these ships for warfare. These ships were very different than we see today. They were all wooden, like the Santa Maria on Columbus's famous journey. Today, ships are more iron and weigh thousands of tons. These ships can blow up a whole country with the push of a button. Things have changed greatly, and now ships can hold thousands of people on transportation across the Atlantic. Railways began in the early 1800s. It wasn't until 1825, though, that John Stevens, a famous inventor, built a test track that ran a locomotive around it in Hoboken, New Jersey. These things would develop and become one of the most important developments in the United States history and the world. George Pullman became one of the most well-known train makers in the United States. He made the luxury sleeping cars, and they named him in his honor. In 1869, the first transcontinental railway between the Union Pacific and Central Pacific was completed. Train travel would continue to be the most popular way of travel for people in the United States. In 1971, however, this would change when Amtrak was introduced, and this would make a fast, high-efficiency train that would eliminate other railways. These things now are some of the fastest trains in the world, with speeds that reach almost 200 miles an hour in other parts of the world, as well as the United States. Trains now are the largest transportation of goods in the United States. The single most important invention in travel, especially in the United States, has to be the automobile. Now, Henry Ford did not create the first car. It was actually created in Europe in the 1800s. But Henry Ford did create the first car which could be owned by a regular average citizen because it was the most affordable one at the time. He did this in 1908 with the famous Model T, and it was the price of $825. Over 10,000 were sold in the first year, establishing a new record. 4 years later, the price dropped to $575 as the assembly line was created. This would allow Ford to claim 48% of the share by 1914. Now, the automobile has changed now. There are many manufacturers. We now have semis and other various forms of travel through automobiles. They allow us to move everyday life from place to place, and are also very important to everyday lives of people around the world. The last major achievement in world travel came in the form of the airplane. On December 17, 1903, in Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, the first manned flight was flown by the Wright brothers. It was only a 12-second flight, but little did they know that in less than 100 years, planes would be able to fly for over 10 hours. Planes allow us to travel all over the world and see places that we've never been able to see before. They are expensive, but in terms of travel, they are the only way to go if you're going a long ways. Planes allow different kinds of warfare and allow major transportation through the air. They are probably the single most important term of travel that exists in the world today. Travel has always been important to the history of the world. Travel will continue to develop and change. Who knows what's going to unfold in the future? But as we've seen in the past, travel will continue to modify and change into something that's better for the individuals in society.